Good morning, welcome to GrainTV. Today's June 14th, 2012. I'm Logan Burgess. To my right is Cody Bills. Well, Cody, it's Thursday. That means it's time for the export sales report. Corn, kind of disappointing this morning, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge disappointment, actually, for corn, coming in at 92,000 metric tons relative to expectations of around 500,000 metric tons. That's a marketing year low. Very, very disappointing. Beans coming in at 425,000 metric tons. That's very seasonal. That's seasonally strong. We beat analyst expectations coming in. If you take a look at old crop and new crop together, and then wheat also very strong as well. 432,000 metric tons sold. So let's take a look at corn progress throughout the year. Right now we're behind 8 million bushels. That's taking into account the 50 million bushel revision that we saw in the last WASDE report. That was the sales that we recorded last week. The last 6 weeks have been very disappointing, have been coming in well below what we would expect to see based on the seasonality of sales.
Right.
So corn is really, it's just looking ugly, and it doesn't seem to show a lot of hope here on the horizon. If you look at beans here, that's a completely different story. 41 million bushels ahead of pace here. We've easily booked what the USDA is anticipating, and we had a huge week again for beans, well over what we would typically see during this time of the season. So very strong here. Right. Logan, what are you what are you seeing in the market this morning? Any other news come out?
Well, we did have Foreign Ag Service this morning report a sale of soft wheat to China, 110,000 metric tons for delivery in 12/13. We also had Strategy Grains reporting that they actually raised their expected production out of Europe around 1.5 million tons. That brings that their production for this crop year to 124.2 million tons. We also have some beneficial rains coming into Russia. You know, a few weeks ago in the wheat complex here, as Russia was exceptionally dry, we saw wheat pick up about $1 as a result. So that's certainly good to see. Not necessarily good for prices, but good to see for their wheat production. You know, that's kind of what we're looking at here for news. A little bit of a quiet day here with the exception of the export sales report. If we hop over here in Fire Tip, right now we're seeing old crop corn trading up 14 3/4. We have old crop beans down 3 1/2 here. Wheat up 12 in Chicago and up 9 3/4 in Kansas City. Looks like the dollar index is pulling back a little bit here. You know, big news for the dollar index will be this weekend when the Greeks go to the polls there for another round of elections. That's moved around the dollar index a lot as that situation has unfolded.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that, you know, we started pulling back. The dollar index started moving a little bit lower, which has eased up a little bit of that pressure on the grain complex.
Right.
But these elections could definitely change the course here for the dollar index.
Right.
We're going to have to pay very close attention. If we get the guys that voted for austerity, that are in favor of austerity, then we could continue to see the dollar start to move a little bit lower as people aren't as scared as that initial vote that we saw about a month ago.
Right.
And one thing that I noticed here this morning, I mean, we saw very weak export sales for corn. Soybeans was actually strong and wheat was strong, but yet we see soybeans down 2 and corn up 14. It's an interesting trade this morning, a little bit perplexing here. But if you take also a look at beans, you know, one of the things I wanted to focus on here is that we did move into that trend line resistance, that 50-day moving average, and we have sold off a bit. We did in the overnight session. We sold off lower than 14 bucks on this July soybean contract. We found a little bit of support down there. And it looked like we bought back up. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can hold that 14 level, and if we can close positive on the day, I think there's a good chance we can go back up and retest this trend line resistance level. Logan, what's your take?
Certainly. Well, you know, I kind of tend to agree with you here, Cody. The fundamentals are in support of that. We saw ending stocks get lowered in the June WASDE report for old crop and new crop beans. So certainly that does support a rally here once again at 15. We're going to have to keep an eye on this though. If you have to go out and work in the fields, we'll keep you posted on Twitter. @GrainTV is where you can find us. We're also going to be on AgWeb Radio this afternoon for the closing market commentary. Thanks a lot for joining us here on GrainTV. Have a great rest of your day.